BARK Radio.
What's good, everybody? It's Robo from All Bark back with another video, and today I'm bringing my NFL Week 9 picks. I'm picking every game this season straight up and against the spread and keeping track of my yearly and weekly results. It's been a pretty great year so far for the picks, but before we get into Week 9's picks, let's go ahead and recap the Week 8 results. Last week was pretty rough for me, going just 7-5 straight up, picking winners, and 4-8 against the spread, which was my worst of the season so far. Thankfully, I built a pretty strong record against the spread this season, so we're still well in the positive, but we need another step forward in the green this week to get back to dominating on the year. This week's matchups are pretty tough, honestly, with a lot of potentially close games. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into those matchups, starting with Sunday. We'll start in Detroit with an NFC North rivalry matchup between the Lions and Vikings. The Vikings are bringing J.J. McCarthy back this week as starting quarterback as he finally returns from a high ankle sprain after they lost Wentz for the season last week with a shoulder injury. And honestly, while I still strongly believe JJ is an upgrade over Carson Wentz, it's more of a long-term thing with him rather than an immediate change. And this Lions team is a disastrous matchup to bring him back to for me. They're getting way healthier now with the return of Aleem McNeil, Terrion Arnold, and Kirby Joseph this week. Brian Branch is back after the suspension, and this defense is going to be hunting the second-year quarterback, making his third career start. Not to mention this Lions offense remains one of the best in the NFL with so many unbelievable playmakers. The Vikings defense gets love, but it has not been good this year, and I think the Lions offense will play pretty efficient football. I really don't see a scenario where McCarthy walks into Detroit and plays well enough to steal a win. I think the Lions roll 31-13. Over to Foxborough, the Patriots host the Falcons in what should be a fun matchup between two teams trending in different directions. New England's genuinely been one of the better offensive teams in football this season. They're top 10 in both passing yards and total yards per game thanks to the leap made by Drake May. On the other side, Atlanta is getting Michael Penix and Drake London back after they missed last week against the Dolphins, and it was an ugly, ugly week for Kirk Cousins, who missed London big time. I think the return of both those guys give their offense a huge lift this week, and the Falcons defense has to come more ready to play this week after a complete embarrassment. When the whole unit has been on the field, the Falcons have shown flashes. London and Bijan are just so good, so even if Penix isn't quite 100%, I think this group could still hang around. But ultimately, New England's defensive front has been stout against the run and disciplined enough to contain big plays. And with how sharp their offense has been, they should take this game at home. I'll go 27-23 for a final. Next is the Chargers of the Titans. This Titans team just looks completely lost right now. I thought they'd compete last week against the division rival getting the interim head coach boost, and they did for a little bit, but the second half of that game was ugly, and they just got absolutely stomped on. This week's going to be tough again as the Chargers are coming off a dominant win over the Vikings last week. They completely dictated that game, looking sharp in all phases. A huge part of that surge was the return of Joe Alt on the offensive line. His presence just completely changes the offense. The Chargers offense looks balanced, Herbert looks more confident and far more efficient. That blowout win gave me a lot of confidence that they'll be able to get back to dominating teams they should be able to handle easily. And this Titans team has some potential in the future, but right now it looks like one of the worst in the NFL. The offense can't do anything really, and defensively they get worn out pretty quick because of it. So again, I don't think they keep up with the Chargers this week, and they take the win on the road, 30-17. Now over to Cincinnati, where the Bengals host the Bears this week, looking to bounce back after a brutal blown loss to the New York Jets. Giving them their first win of the season last week, this makes this a great spot to bounce back this week though. I would imagine this group will play with much more urgency to get back on track as they are not out of the AFC North race at all yet. Despite the struggles, without Burrow, there's still plenty of talent on this roster, and at home against a Bears team that I said last week might have been getting a little overrated, this sets up well for them to me. Last week in Baltimore was rough. They got handled by Tyler Huntley, not even Lamar Jackson. That bounce back angle could also be used for them here, but I just think the Bengals and Bears aren't really much different in terms of team rankings to me, and the Bengals are at home and a little more desperate in this game to me. The injuries in the Bears secondary are going to make it pretty tough to cover Jamar Chase and T. Higgins again this week. So I like the Bengals to come out strong and pull off the upset at home, 31-28. The Colts hit the road this week to take on the Steelers. There's not much to say about the Colts right now other than they've been an absolute wagon lately. This offense is clicking at every level. Jonathan Taylor looks completely unstoppable behind an offensive line that's dominating the trenches and opening holes that even I could run through. Not to mention Daniel Jones has been as efficient as anyone in the NFL, taking care of the football and keeping that offense balanced. On the other side, the Steelers are coming off a disappointing home loss to the Packers, a game where they just couldn't find any rhythm or consistency, and I genuinely think this Colts team is an even tougher team to beat right now. They're so physical, rolling at a completely different level, and have an MVP caliber running back and a defense that's matching the offense's tone. So I think the Steelers offense struggles enough again to score enough points to hang with this Indianapolis offense this week, as the Colts go on the road and stay red hot with another impressive win, 30-23. Next, we've got the 49ers heading way out east to take on the Giants in what looks like a pretty tough spot for New York given the loss of Cam Skattebo. The Giants looked completely lost last week after he went down, and now without both Skattebo and Malik Nabers, it's hard to see where the firepower is going to come from on this offense. I like what I've seen out of Jackson Dart, but without his two most important playmakers, this offense just does not have the juice or the rhythm to keep pace against many teams to me. On the other side, despite last week against an elite Texans defense, Mac Jones has still shown to me he's more than capable of running this offense efficiently and keeping them competitive. San Francisco is a good enough team to me to trust in situations like these. I'm expecting a big week out of CMC and Kittle as well after that Texans loss, and the defense should be able to handle a short-handed Giant squad. So I'll take the Niners to grind this one out, 23-17. Now over to Houston. The Texans host the Broncos in what feels like a complete toss-up game to me. Both teams are well coached with elite defenses, but Houston's defense has just been on another level this season. They're number one in the league and can keep the Texans in games regardless of what happens offensively for them. That's going to make things pretty tough on Bo Nix, especially on the road. He's had some up and down games this year, but hasn't really faced a defense with this kind of talent to me yet. And the return of Nico Collins for the Texans is also huge after he missed last week with a concussion. He gives CJ Stroud an elite target this offense needs to beat a stronger Denver defense, which deserves plenty of respect too. But between the two, I just think the Texans defense has been a bit more reliable, especially getting this matchup at home. It's definitely a toss-up to me with the way that Denver can rush the passer, but I think Houston finds a way to edge this one out, 24-20. The Packers are back at home facing the Panthers this week. They just put together one of the best performances of the season last week in Pittsburgh. They dominated that second half, and it's becoming clear this Packers team is one of the best in the NFL, and their record is not a fluke. Jordan Love and the offense looked its best all season to me, and the defense continues to swarm and get stops. With that said, Carolina is coming off a blowout loss to the Bills where they really missed Bryce Young, and they looked dead right out of the gate. So getting him back this week should be a nice boost for the entire team. This Panthers team has played with a ton of fight for most of the season and has ran the ball really well lately. The Bills' blowout last week was largely due to turnovers and Buffalo's elite offense, which is something I still don't believe Green Bay truly has. I think the Packers still win this one fairly comfortably at home, but Carolina should be better this week with Bryce back, and a spread up above 2 touchdowns is a lot. I'll go 31-20 Packers. The Raiders host the Jaguars this week with both teams coming off a bye after blowout losses. The Jags losing to the Rams in London, and the Raiders getting destroyed by the Chiefs on the road. Both teams are pretty desperate for a win, but I almost feel like the Raiders should be the more motivated team here. This is a big opportunity to put that Chiefs loss in the rearview mirror, getting a beatable opponent at home who's banged up now with the loss of Travis Hunter, and maybe Devin Lloyd again. The Jaguars have completely fallen apart since that big win over Kansas City. They've dropped back-to-back games and looked bad on both sides of the ball. And even before that, I said their record felt a little inflated. So I'm not sure how much faith I should have in this offense to put up points on the road. The Raiders are not good, but they still have legitimate playmakers who can take over a game. And Geno Smith badly needs a better performance this week and get back to how he looked in Seattle. Maybe the bye will help with that. So with the extra prep time and playing in front of the home crowd, I think the Raiders come out hungrier this week and take this one 24-21. The Rams host the Saints this week as they add Puka Nacua back into the lineup. The Rams are the clear favorite in this game and deserve to be, but over 2 touchdowns is a lot in the NFL, even against a Saints team that sits with just 1 win. They've been pretty competitive defensively and ranked in the top half of the league in yards allowed despite giving up a pretty high point total this year. On the other side of the ball, Tyler Shuck is making his first start in place of Spencer Rattler, and while that's a tough task on the road against a team as good as Los Angeles, he actually looked pretty solid in relief of Rattler last week, and I don't really believe in this Rams secondary. If he can provide even a little spark, this Saints offense could be able to find the end zone a couple times this time around. So combining that with a defense that's been capable of slowing down good teams like the Bills and the Patriots this season, I just don't love laying over 2 touchdowns in this spot with the Rams. I could be wrong and the Rams absolutely lay into the Saints team and make Shuck look terrible, but I think the Saints might hang around for a little bit, which could be enough to cover. I'll go 27-14 for a final. The Bills host the Chiefs in Buffalo this week in what should be another instant classic between 2 of the NFL's best. This matchup always delivers an incredible game, and I don't expect this one to be any different. The Chiefs have dominated the postseason games in this rivalry, but in the regular season, it's been all Buffalo. They've taken each of the last 4 meetings dating back to 2021, and getting this one at home later in the afternoon sets them up perfectly for a chance to make that 5 in a row. Kansas City's defense has been excellent this season, one of the best in the NFL, but Josh Allen is just a special quarterback. He can create offense against anyone, and this feels like one of those games where he takes over to me. Mahomes in this Chiefs offense is not going to be slowed down either, though, which is why I think this is a back-and-forth game from start to finish. But in the end, I think the home crowd in Buffalo and Allen's late-game magic in the regular season will be enough to win a little bit of a shootout with the Chiefs again, 31-28. Now on to Sunday night, we've got the Seahawks taking on the Commanders in DC. The Commanders are dealing with some serious offensive injury issues right now. Jaden Daniels is probably still a bit banged up, even though he'll play. Terry McLaurin is out again, and Debo just returned from injury as well. So with these concerns on top of missing their best playmaker out wide, this unit just does not have the same juice that we've gotten used to seeing. Even when healthy, Washington's offense has been pretty inconsistent for me, and this feels like a tough spot for them against a Seattle team that's found some real momentum on both ends. Sam Darnold's been outstanding for the Seahawks, and he's got a monster at receiver in Jackson Smith-Njigba, who continues to look absolutely uncoverable week after week. I just don't see anybody in that Commander secondary slowing him down, and Seattle's defense has been solid this season as well. I think it's a trustworthy enough team to handle a banged-up Washington offense on the road, so give me the Seahawks 27-20. The Cowboys host the Cardinals on Monday night in a matchup they really need to bounce back from last week in Denver. This defense is just bad, but this is definitely an easier matchup for them back at home, as it looks like Kyler Murray will again be out this week, which means Jacoby Brissett will start at quarterback, and that's a clear advantage for the Cowboys. I mean, even if he were healthy, I would still think Dallas is the better team in this matchup. Brissett has done an okay job filling in, but even if he were to play well, I obviously don't love the matchup for Arizona's defense either. Facing Dak, CD, and George Pickens coming off a loss is probably not going to be a fun assignment. I think this offense is a big night against a Cardinal secondary that's been banged up and is pretty young, and while Dallas's defense has its own issues and will likely give up some points, I just trust Dak far more than this game than Brissett, especially at home. So give me the Cowboys here on Monday night, 31-24. That's it for my Week 9 picks. Let me know your thoughts on any of these games down in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
BARK Radio.